Coming up, Google at Home.
You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
Hey, Shaun Preece, how are you this fine day?
Confused, Stephen Scott. Google at Home. I mean, could you be any more vague than that?
Well, I'm talking about smart home here, right? And it's a great conversation because you and I both know how much we talk about Lady A at home all the time. And that's what I use, and I enjoy using it. I've tried to get into the whole using the HomePod thing, but...
yeah, it doesn't really work, does it?
No, don't say that. Don't say that, because we'll have Greg on again, and it'll be all chaos and... Yeah.
Okay, let's say this. There's a lot of compatible smart home devices out there already that are compatible with Lady A and Google, though, at the same time. I put them at the same level.
Okay, all right. Well, look, our guest today is going to debunk any myths and hopefully answer some questions as well about the world of Google at Home, because that's exactly what he uses. And of course, I'm talking about the co-host of RNIB's Tech Talk show, my old job. It is Callum Stoneman joining us. Callum, great to have you here on Double Tap.
Hello. Yeah, good to be back again. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Nice to have you here. So you use Google at Home. Tell us how you're using it. How are you actually using it in your daily life?
Yeah, I've got it in a bit of an odd setup. I must be honest. I'm not, because my intention was never to get into the Google ecosystem. But basically, the way it came about was I got fed up of the Ring doorbell, which I think one of you two is in a similar.
I'm with you, brother. Yeah. You preach, sir. Yes, I've moved to Blink, which is still owned by Amazon, but still, yes, I moved away from Ring as well. I got fed up with it.
Yeah, well, I was just having endless issues with my Ring doorbell, and I bought a couple of other cameras from Ring, and they also didn't work. We could dig into that if you want, but it was a shame because for a while that was a fantastic system. But anyway, it wasn't doing what I needed it to do, so I ended up buying a Google Nest doorbell and trying that out, and loved it. I was really happy with it. So then, because we were looking for some security cameras, because the doorbell's really good, but we were looking for something that kind of covered the driveway as well. So, the car had a bit more covering overnight and things like that. So then we bought a Google Nest security camera and set that up. That worked beautifully. And then So I started playing around with the Google Home app and adding my existing things to it, my lights and my smart plugs. And I just found it was a really nice app, just a really nice, simple, pretty clean, easy to use app. So I started using the app to control my devices and the Google Assistant. And this is where it gets a bit weird because I haven't actually got any Google Home speakers. I've got all mine I've got Sonoses all over my house.
Okay.
I've got Google Assistant via Sonos, it's mostly there. It's a little bit like having Lady A on there. You don't quite get everything. So I don't think you can, last time I tried it, you couldn't answer the door through the speakers. It would ring and it would tell you when someone's at the door, but you can't answer it, which I think is similar to how it works with Lady A on Sonos. But I mean, I've got most of the functionality and it's working nicely. Yeah, we're liking it.
Oh, most of the functionality. Come on now. Don't you miss that? I mean, that's the thing I use the most. When I hear the doorbell, bing bong, I always say, talk to the front door. And then I'm talking to the person straight away. It's great. Don't you miss that?
Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, I've never really had it because on Ring it never worked. So
true. I will give you that. Yes.
And I mean, to be honest, the Google, using the app doesn't bother me because as long as you get the notification in time, you just double tap that notification, it comes up. There's a little talk button, which is at the very bottom of the screen. So you just 4-finger tap near the bottom and then there you go, job done. You're talking to the person. So, I mean, I'd like to have it, but I can't justify more smart speakers around the place.
Well, that's not an excuse, and you know that. There's always an excuse to have more smart speakers around the house.
Wait. You say more? You haven't got any. Yeah. You've got the Sonos speakers.
Yeah, they're smart speakers.
Well, I mean, we quibble over terms, sir. Are they smart, really?
Whoa.
Wow. Right, we're
Yeah,
off and
it's what?
running. Okay. Upsetting
They're
the guests.
Wi-Fi
We're only in
speakers.
5 minutes in here, Sean.
I'm just saying. Also, chicken and egg question. What came first? Were you using the Google Assistant on your Sonos, or before they moved to the Google cameras, were you using Lady A?
I was. Yeah, I was using Lady A.
Oh, and
So you've gone off. You've gone off Lady A then.
Yeah. Well, no, I still love Lady A, but the reason I ended up switching them to Google was because the doorbell has got a few features on it, such as face recognition. So you can program in who's at the door, and when that person rings the doorbell, it will tell you. You know, it will say that person's name, wherever you've saved them as.
That's good.
And I quite like that, but you don't get that with the Lady A integration. It will always just do a generic summons at the front door. So I switched them over so that I could get that functionality, which was, as far as I know anyway, the only way to do it. And
does it?
yeah,
Does it also do facial recognition for motion alerts? Will it say so and so is lurking around the front garden?
yeah, it does.
That's nice. Okay, cool.
Who?
I mean, it's sometimes.
Sorry. Hang on. Who's lurking around the garden that it's going to be able to recognise? I mean,
No. I just like to be. I like to be notified. That's all. I want it to say.
lurking around the shed.
I want it to say, quick, the kids are home. For whatever reason, I'm just saying.
because you may be buying a present for your wife online.
Correct.
Hence
In
why you're in
incognito
incognito mode in your browser.
be
Yes,
fine.
100%.
You'll get a clear Mr. F is approaching. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yes.
Now, we've got one of those right here.
Mr. F.
Yeah.
God bless
got
you,
all that.
Mr. F.
Absolutely. God bless you, Mr. F.
I will agree with you totally, though. The Google Home app, I mean, I've been playing around with it recently, and I don't know, I can't remember last time I opened it up before that, but it is very nice, right? Very accessible. Layout is really nice. Far better than the Lady A app, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really got on with the Lady A app, to be honest. I've just never. It's just, I mean, the accessibility has always been up and down, hasn't it? So
Yeah, it's okay, but it just doesn't feel like it's particularly polished. And one of the criticisms that we often make on here, and I'll put my hands up, about Google is that Google don't really seem that invested anymore or interested in the smart speaker side of things. They don't seem to mention it very much, It just seems like, it's one of those things. But I will say, when it comes down to the Lady A app as well, I mean, there has barely been any advancement in that. I know they recently, the last major update was when they changed all the devices, screen and things. Didn't make it any easier for screen reader users at all. So
you tried navigating through that screen.
yeah, it's an absolute pain. Yeah, so it's a, well, let's not say that, but it is terrible. Whereas Google Home, very nice. I went in there trying to set up my Google Nest thermostat because I just gave up in Lady A.
Now, to be fair, I forgot to mention that I've got a Nest thermostat as well. That's the only part of Google that's a mess, because you've got Nest thermostat. You can control it in the Google Home app, but most of the control and most of the setup is in the Nest app. But then if you've got a Nest doorbell or Nest cameras, even though they're still branded as Nest, they're in Google Home. So I mean, good luck getting your head around that one.
It never made sense to me. Yes, a while ago, a few years ago, everyone had to migrate from having a Nest account to having a Google account, or the other way round. I honestly can't remember. And that's when they sort of limited the Lady A integration with the Google Nest as well. Now, I should say, with the latest models of the Google Nest thermostat, it does have Matter support, so you can control it basically from anything, right? The Apple support as well, obviously. So it is far easier now. And I can turn it on, I can turn it off, and I can set the temperature, which is basically all I need to do through my smart speaker anyway. But I agree with you. It's just slightly confusing. Where do I go? I can set the settings in the Lady A app, as you said, the Nest app, and the Google Home app. I don't know which one takes priority.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Nest, but I could be wrong. I mean, the only thing with that thermostat, really, the only major problem I have with it is the if you want to create your own schedules, because that screen is just not accessible at all. You can
absolutely
read the schedule once it's been set, but you can't. And you can try changing it, but mine just started doing random stuff when I changed it.
Exactly the same. Yeah.
I tried to adjust the temperature on a Monday morning, and it ended up coming on at 3 p.m. on a Friday at 30 degrees. I'm thinking, what's going on there?
It's even worse. I use the Hive, which is a UK one by British Gas, and it's the same. You try and adjust it must be like, I don't know what it is, to be honest. It's not even a picker. Because when you sort of scroll through it, or you're sort of swiping up, right? You're swiping up to change the temperature, swiping down, and it will change it, and then it'll just jump. So it'll either jump way too high or pretty much off. And you think, what's going on here? Yeah. It takes ages to get the heating set, which especially when you're out and about trying to do it from home. If you're outside and you're heading home, you think, oh, hey, I'll put the heating on. It never works very well. So they're not perfect, these things, at all.
No, they're not.
So, I mean, look, I think, just to back up a little bit here, because I was kind of expecting you to say, you're loving the speakers, because I'm intrigued by these Google speakers. We call them Google Nest now, right? That's the official name.
I think so.
Yeah, but everything's Nest. Google Nest. It gets confusing.
Because you've got the speakers, right? So you've got the Google Nest speaker, and that's your kind of, I guess, your traditional hockey puck, very much like the original Amazon Echo.
That's like your traditional Amazon Echo, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one which you can talk to, and of course you can connect through the app. You can connect all these different smart things to it. Although don't call them smart things because that's Samsung's name. What a mess! But yeah, basically you can hook all this stuff up, and then of course like lights and plugs and all that. You could have all that running, and you can just talk to the Google Assistant, and it will do the job of controlling them. And then, of course, you've got the kind of bigger brother that goes with that. There's a Nest Audio. I think that's what it's called, Nest Audio, which is a slightly bigger one.
Is that still a thing? Is that still going?
Yeah, still a thing. I've got mine here, actually. I never use it, ever at all. Every so often I plug it in, and it says, 3 months to the next update, or 3 months till it gets updated, so I think forget it.
Why has it got Google Gemini in it now?
It may well do. I don't know. I've not tested it, but we absolutely should. But look, I was kind of hoping I would get all this from Callum today. You've disappointed me, Callum. I was expecting to hear all kinds of stuff about these devices and Gemini and all the rest, but maybe you can tell us a bit about all that, because it sounds to me like you're using Google to make your home smart, but you're actually doing it without the speakers, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, because I'm using it on Sonos. So because the way it works, I've got a Sonos soundbar in the living room that's now running the Google Assistant, a stereo pair of Sonos Ones in the dining room, and a Sonos One speaker in my office up here. And all of those are running the Google Assistant now. And I don't need any more smart speakers. I mean, the only place we don't really have them is the bedrooms, and I just don't really feel like we need them in there.
And so, you're not bothered about what you're missing out on, essentially, because I mean, I guess Google has the same announce functionality, intercom functionality. Does it have all the same things, guys? Does it?
I think so. Yeah. And I must admit, I haven't tried that to see if that still works.
But you probably wouldn't.
Sonos.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that on Sonos, would you? Because it's the same as Lady A in that sense. You're just getting elements of the service. Why do they do that? Why don't they just build it all in?
I mean, because
it gives you a reason to buy the actual original hardware, right?
Does it?
Yeah, I think with Lady A though, you can announce through Sonos. You just can't do the calls and the drop-in.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, that might be the same on Google as well. I don't know what their equivalent of drop-in is. But
what do you use? Do you use the Google Assistant to ask general questions, like throughout the day? If it's not for controlling your smart devices, do you talk to Google?
Sometimes, yeah, I do like the odd question. But most of the time, I think since ChatGPT came along, I've just kind of forgotten about the smart speaker for general questions.
That's interesting.
Because I just default to like voice mode, or I was using Pi for ages. Shaun, you put me onto that one.
Yes, it was very nice, and then they haven't really updated it for a long time.
Yeah, it's kind of been left alone a bit, hasn't it? But
that's because they all moved to Microsoft.
Yeah.
That's why.
So, I mean, I just go to ChatGPT, voice mode now if I want to ask a question. I mean, if it's a really simple one, like I was doing something the other day, I was trying to arrange something and I wanted to check what day a certain date was. And for stuff like that, I'll just shout out to Google because, it's just on the shelf behind me.
Yeah.
But if it's more trying to get in depth with something, I just don't bother with it, to be honest. As far as I know, you can't get Gemini on these. I'd be very surprised if you could.
Not through the Sonos speakers, no.
No.
And I don't know if it's... I'm hearing kind of stories about perhaps it coming to Nest speakers. It's being perhaps rolled out slowly. Whenever I hear that, I tend to get a little bit nervous because I think that means it's never coming to the UK, or we're never going to get it in Canada, or It's never going to roll out beyond a few homes in America, and that'll be the height of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it will come eventually, but I think it's interesting. Of course, we're heading up towards an Amazon event where we're going to see some new hardware, and I think we're going to hear more talk about the future of Lady A and where it's going. And hopefully, as we've said before, I hope it's going to be with, let's just say, a bigger brain inside Lady A, which I think would be wonderful. We just have to wait and see. But it feels like it comes with new hardware, and they haven't updated the Google hardware, the Google Nest or the Google Audio, for quite a while. They have not been mentioned in the past 2 or 3 Google events. We keep waiting for something, but there's nothing new. I don't know if it's because they find that people are using their smartphones more for these interactions rather than talking to the Air and these particular devices, or perhaps the technology inside the Google devices is enough to carry it for now. They can sort of not worry about that, just focus on, getting the AI part right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does make me a bit nervous, to be honest. Like, I don't think they're going to get rid of the Google Assistant anytime soon, but if they, for whatever reason, decide to get rid of it on smart speakers or at least reduce its functionality, because I feel like it's got to a stage, and this is purely on like, I've got nothing to back this up, but
welcome to Double Tap. That's how it works over here.
There we go.
No facts, just opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ill-informed opinion. Well done.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. But it feels like people are just using the smart speakers as like an easy way to play music, an easy way to control your smart home. But for anything beyond that, it feels like there's just better things out there now.
Well, I think you're right, but I also think I'd go further than that and say I think that's because people have got used to using them for a certain function. And, when something works for you, and it could be, playing music, for example, if it's playing music and it's doing well at doing that, then, well, why wouldn't you just use it for that? If it can be used to change the thermostat or do something else, then that's great as well. But if there's some smart function that it just doesn't seem to be able to do all the time, then you'll just distrust it. We naturally distrust it then to do that. So we'll just do it another way. So I think there's that. And I think people, it's a bit like the music thing, right? I remember when they brought out Spotify and then, Amazon Music is now here and Apple Music and all the rest of it. And they all touted how many millions of songs were available on the platform. And then they realized that most people were listening to the same 50 songs over and over again.
Whatever I used to listen to at college.
Yeah, exactly. I love that particular album by Alanis Morissette, the only one. So I'll listen to Jagged Little Pill on repeat. And I love it, and that's great. Because that's what I listened to when I was at school, and it takes me back to a happy place and all that nonsense, right? So isn't it beautiful? It's a gorgeous
Steven's
story.
got a happy place. Who knew?
Yeah, with a particularly horrific album to go with it, I must admit. But there you go. But,
I've never heard of it, so...
You've never heard of it. How old are you?
How old are you?
Wait a minute. How old are you? Sorry, I got very defensive there.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't feel like you need to answer that. Let's move on.
Under attack.
25, if you must know.
25? Baby.
Yeah, I love him. So patronising. So,
Wow.
You mentioned, I'm trying to put this back on the rails, stop it. So you mentioned the Google doorbell, the video doorbell, and the Nest cameras, and how much you think they work really well. Has that made you think about investing in any other areas? For example, I've always wanted the Google Nest smoke alarms. I think they've always looked really cool, but I've never. Every time I thought, oh, you know what, I'm gonna get some of those. I don't have any smoke alarms in my house. I am terrible. You should always.
You're not allowed to admit that. You know that.
No.
Apart from the one I've got in every room, but I haven't got. I meant any Google Nest ones. But look, they seem very. They seem very, very cool. But they are, I think, $100 or £100 or whatever it may be.
That's the ones that talk, right? They talk instead of beep.
They light up, and of course they're smart and they can join together.
Your house is on fire. It may be advisable to leave.
The point is, has it made you want to invest more into Google smart devices?
I'm not sure. I mean, smoke alarms, possibly. I mean, the place that we're in at the minute, where we already know we're not going to be in this place for forever. So, we'll be moving out of this place hopefully soon, which makes it sound terrible. I'm not living in hell. But,
I thought you were saying, it just sounded like you were leaving the planet for a second
Sounds
there.
like you're doing a flip.
Yeah.
Someone who's rent. Carry on.
well,
That's right, yeah. Eviction notice coming soon. Okay, right, that's fine. We can help you through this. I mean, obviously we'll talk you through. We're not going to give you any money or anything, but we'll happily help with support.
No. Yeah.
I'm back
Thoughts-
to the
thoughts
question.
and prayers.
Yes, stop it.
So,
I mean, yeah, when we're in the new place, I mean, it possibly, but again, it just, I mean, I've got the Ring burglar alarm, which is still working well. The only Ring product I've got now that actually works beautifully, to be fair. I can't fault it. But it does kind of make me a little bit nervous. I mean, if this, say in, I don't know, 5 years, Google pull the plug on all of these, what happens then? Do I have to go and replace all my smoke alarms? Which, to be fair, isn't the end of the world. It's not a massive job, but
well, do you know what? In all seriousness,
they're kind of good for your safety, Sean. You see, these devices.
They are quite
I
important.
totally
yes.
agree with you. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, but it's true though. To be serious, it is important to think about it that way, because the problem with smart devices is that, you know, if they're connected to any, you know, network, you know, like Google, for example, have created it. If Google pull the plug, that's it. It's gone. And the expectation would be that you'll just buy another brand or go and get something else. But we're talking money here, serious cash.
Yeah.
We're seeing this happen time and time again. There was a story, it's gone out of my mind now, but there was a story just a couple of weeks ago about just this, where a device had pretty much been shunned entirely. And it was a case of, okay, what do we do now? Yeah.
Wow. Tech redundancy fear or phobia. It's a real thing. I think we got to be a little bit fair here. This isn't just a Google thing.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
You know, any
No,
of these
it's not.
companies. I mean, how many products have Amazon unveiled at one of their product events and then said, well, yeah, we've binned that one. That one's not coming out anymore.
They are known for the Google graveyard. Let's be honest. They are known for it.
Yes. Okay.
But a lot of that's software services, right? And I can kind of see, and you know, there's two sides to that argument. One is, okay, that's terrible. They've got rid of that thing I really liked. On the other hand, you know, they've decided they're not going to continue to develop it. Why waste time?
Why keep it around?
Yeah, exactly. Why waste time and pretense that it's going to be there in a while? So, yeah, I don't know. But it is a fear. I don't disagree with you, Callum. It's something you got to think about when you're buying new products like that. I mean, of course, you can just buy an unbranded or at least a branded, smoke alarm company branded smoke alarm, right? I mean, that's it.
Smoke alarm. Well done.
It's taken me a long way to get around there, but we got there.
Can I say, it is quite cool, though, don't you think, that we're in a position now where you can break out of the ecosystem? You know, you mentioned you've got the Amazon, you got the Ring burglar alarm there. And, you know, and you can control a lot of these devices with, you know, you're not locked into the Google smart speaker system. You're not locked in to the Echo. I think Matter, I'm slightly annoyed and frustrated that it took as long as it has done and hasn't been quite as easy to update older hardware with the Matter protocols I'm going to say, led to believe. And sometimes you need to buy actually totally new hardware in order to get that cross-universal platform usability. But I still think it's encouraging that we're moving out of the way of once you buy into Google, you're locked in. Once you buy into Apple,
Google.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I think something's listening.
It is.
I don't say the name.
This is
Lady
going well.
G, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all listening all the time. Talk to me about the integration between, because obviously you can use Google there, I've said it now, but you can use it on your Sonos speaker, and you can obviously connect to other services like Lady 8, right? Can you use them both at the same time? So can you hook into both and then you use them at the same time?
Not on the ones that I've got. So there's some newer Sonos speakers out there now. I think they're the Era speakers. I think on them, I could be wrong, but I think on those you can have both at the same time. Whereas with these, you can have them both connected and you can go in the app and toggle between them, but you can't have them. So I couldn't say the Google wake word, do something on that, and then say Lady A and do something on there. I would have to switch. I can have them both ready to go, but I've got to switch between which one's listening. But I think on the newer ones, you can do both.
Yeah, that's good.
Which does intrigue me, to be fair.
That appeals to me. Yeah, because there's more of a chance you would use it then. I mean, look, it's simple enough. They have different wake words, right? So there's no reason why you can't just talk to both.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why not?
I don't know. I'm not really sure the reason for that, but yeah, I mean, it's easy enough to switch, to be fair, because your account stays connected and everything. It's just basically which one is turned on.
Right.
So,
okay. Look, stick around because I want to talk more about this, and I also want to ask you something else about these speakers that you've got there. We'll get to that in just a moment. First, if you want to get involved with the show and join in the conversation, hey, maybe you're using Google at Home as well, and you want to tell us how you're using it, then here's how to get in touch.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Talking to Callum Stoneman today about using Google at Home, but I don't want to talk to you about Google for a second. I want to talk to you about Sonos because, let's be honest about it, Sonos have had a bit of a bad rap in the last year. Yeah, the stock gone. People have been leaving the company, sometimes with an escort, and it's been a bit of a bad time over at Sonos. So you've obviously stuck with it, and I guess that's partly driven by the fact you spent a lot of money. Again, going back to that point about spending
hostage.
money. Yeah, so you spent a lot of money. How is the experience now compared to what appeared to be the case last year?
Oh, it's a hell of a lot better now. It was terrible when it was released. I'm not gonna hold back on it. It was just awful. You couldn't, as soon as you went into the app, you couldn't explore by touch. So basically they changed the app. For those who don't know, the Sonos app used to be laid out in kind of a tab system. So you had, I can't remember the names of the tabs, but you had, for example, Home, which was like your most recent, your favorites and your most recently played stuff. Then you had like your services, which is where you could go in and specifically look at Apple Music and, Audible and whatever you had linked. Then you had search, which is where you could, search for stuff. And then you had like system and settings and all that kind of stuff. Might not have been in that order and those names exactly, but everything had its own little section. And then they decided we're going to do away with all that and just have everything on one big screen that you can reorder, move things to where you want. Completely broke accessibility. So yeah, I mean, VoiceOver, trying to navigate that massive screen with VoiceOver was painful. Half of it was unlabeled. There was no support for Explore by Touch. I don't know how they broke that.
Wow.
But everything was just recognized as an element that said screenshot. So the only way you could navigate was just through swiping. Obviously, no loads of unlabeled buttons, no kind of headings or containers or anything in the road to help you out.
And like you say, this came from a good place, right? I mean, the app was accessible. It was all good until that moment.
Beautiful. It was really good. Yeah. One of the best examples of accessibility that I've seen, to be honest.
From that to one of the worst examples of how to change over, how to redesign and totally forget. Now, look, as you mentioned, it's improved so much now. They did come out and apologize. We've had, resignations there and change of staff and everything. How do you feel? How has it left you feeling? Because, look, I'm not invested in Sonos whatsoever. And I just really don't like the way that they ignored all the warnings that they got about accessibility before the app was rolled out. I mean, they knew about this way before. In beta testing, they knew about this. They were made aware and still decided to go ahead. And for me, I find that they've got to work incredibly hard to regain our trust.
Build up that trust. Yeah, absolutely. And I must admit, it has put me off buying new products. I mean, right now, I'm not interested in upgrading my system. But if I was, then I would be a little bit more nervous about spending all that money on Sonos stuff. But then again, I'm a little bit torn because obviously it's ridiculous. It should never have gone out the way that it did. But also, it was terrible from a mainstream perspective as well, not just accessibility. They got a lot of unhappy customers out of this. So, I mean, it wasn't just us, which I suppose makes it a little bit better.
Well, I want to pick up on that. So I just want to pick up on that for a second because that raises an interesting question for me. So a lot of people said at the time, I think a lot of blind people especially thought that what had happened here was a bit of a wake-up call to Sonos and that this might never happen again because of the furore that went along with it. But let's be truly honest about it. Yes, there were a couple of articles in the mainstream tech press. Of course, we were talking about it. I know you were on RNB Tech Talk as well. We all were, right? We in the blind community talked about this. But in the mainstream, it got a little bit of light. The bigger story was the people who couldn't access their alarms and all the features they lost. And that became the headline.
I think it was, was there not a kind of use case where if you already had alarms set up, you couldn't turn them off?
You couldn't turn them off. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
So I guess my question is, okay, so
have they learned anything?
Well, if it happens again, or it may well happen again, I should say, because of the fact that really the big issue, as far as the company might be concerned, was around the issues that affected the mainstream, not the blind community.
Yeah. I mean, we just don't know. I mean, only time will tell. I did get a bit annoyed by, well, not annoyed. I mean, it's up to people, it's up to everyone else what they want to do. But when people were saying, well, I'm going to ditch my Sonos equipment and I'm going to move, I've now changed all my things to Bose, or I've changed all my setup to Sony or whatever. And I'm just kind of thinking, okay, but how do you know they're not going to do the same thing? You know, there's nothing saying that. I mean, I'm just picking on Bose as an example. I've got no real experience with their stuff, but they could have a beautiful, really accessible app. But then, who's to say that they're not going to plan a redesign and do the same thing?
Listen, you've been listening to me
that
for a while.
It just didn't stand up to me.
You know how this works with me, right, Callum? And when it comes to social media, I've said for a long time, there's people that sit there and grumble and whine about, oh, I'm not staying here because I don't like it anymore and it's all terrible. I absolutely infuriates me because it's just garbage. Those people are just talking garbage. Are you telling me someone's going to go and ditch all their Sonos stuff and go and buy Bose? Well, first off, if you can afford to do that, then good for you. But I guarantee you are in a very small minority of people who can afford to do that. If you're Beyonce or Kim Kardashian, then fair enough. I believe they're real people. But,
So down with the youth, Steve.
I know. I caught the Super Bowl the other night. I was whoever it was. Yeah. Okay. Someone was on it. Was there a tennis player dancing? I didn't quite understand that. But anyway.
No idea.
So, but Serena Williams, was she not there dancing?
Was she?
I thought she was a tennis person. Anyway,
she could dance as well. Okay,
I'm not saying she can't. I just said, it's not what she's known for. It'd be like me turning up to dance.
Pigeonhole people, Stephen Scott. All right,
people want to pigeonhole me. They tell me to talk tech all the time.
All right. Hello, Callum.
So, what was my question?
I have no idea what you were saying.
Something about social media.
No. Yeah. My point is, there are many people out there who will say, I'll ditch all my stuff. But of course, it is nonsense. And if they are going to do that, then good for them. But the majority of people can't afford to do that. You're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, but I think it does. People are rightfully angry about it, and maybe.
I was angry.
I agree. It doesn't.
Yeah, but we can't all afford to switch to something else. We've got to stick to what we've got.
I'm saying it probably doesn't achieve anything in the long term, but you feel powerless when something like this happens, right? Especially if you've invested thousands in multi-room speaker system, and because as you know, we all, before we buy anything like this, we need to make sure that we're going to be able to use it, and to see it sort of disregarded on us. I'm going to say, I think they disregarded us as visually impaired users. They just disregarded us totally, like we didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think people were angry about that. And maybe, it doesn't achieve anything if you sell up and move to the other one.
Sean, it achieves nothing, okay? Because if all blind people just ditch everything they don't like, then all of a sudden we've got nothing. And guess where we end up? Blind Island. And I don't want to live in Blind Island.
I do. That sounds great. Blind Island.
I don't want to live in Blind Island. No, it just infuriates. It's like the Twitter argument again. It's all these people that just go off and say, oh, well, I'm just going to leave the platform, go somewhere else. How does that solve anything? These are the same people, by the way, who scream and shout about accessibility day and night and say everything needs to be accessible, but they don't stick around long enough to make sure anything's left to be accessible. Good riddance if you're leaving it, because you're achieving nothing sitting in that position. So if you do decide to sell all your stuff, good for you. But don't make a song and dance out of it as if it's something to be proud of.
See what you've done? Are you happy now, Callum?
Sonos, so,
yeah, you started
I'm all right.
So you're fine.
Yeah.
We like you.
No, I mean, for me, it was just, I haven't spent all this, you build it up over time. You know what I mean? My wife bought me one Sonos speaker for Christmas a couple of years ago.
Just one?
And then, just one. And I think she got the Sonos bug more than I did, to be honest. The next, she was loving it. And you just build it up over time. I mean, the soundbar itself, I've got a soundbar and a sub in the living room. I think them two on their own were about £500.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's that, about $550, $600, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
more than that, yeah.
That's just that one kind of system. And then I've got, as I said, the ones in the kitchen, dining room, in the office. Of course, I'm not just going to, you're not going to get that money back from selling up.
No. And as you said, you need to replace them with another accessible system. And let's be honest, they're thin on the ground, right? And there's no guarantees.
Yeah, so all I did was just do the classic blind thing of just find workarounds. I mean, luckily, they've all got voice assistants, so they all had either Google or Lady A. So, I could just use that.
You're going to get kicking in the background.
Why did I? When you're doing a show about a particular smart speaker, you really should mute it. Yeah.
So you stuck with Sonos, is what you're saying?
Yeah, and you just found where so like use voice assistant to play music or just they've all got AirPlay, so you could use that. So I'd managed to avoid the app. Obviously, it's different if you've got different speakers that aren't as capable, or if you've got alarms. Well, if you've got alarms, you were stuffed either way. They were going to keep going off, whether you liked it or not.
I want to ask you a little bit about the Google ecosystem because, in preparation for this, and, that's loose words if ever you heard them. But, when I was thinking about this topic and we were talking about, using Google services, and I was thinking about the products themselves, one thing we've talked a little bit about here on the show is fear I have in particular about, well, I was talking about Lady A speakers, but easily applicable to Google or any, actually, because the HomePod is rumored to get one as well, and that's a screen. There's lots of suggestion that, Apple will come out with a HomePod with a screen this year. Of course, Google have their Nest Hub. Lady A has its own Echo Show. Are you fearful about that? Because, my experience, I've mentioned it before, and I know you, Shaun, you've had the same experience with the Echo Show 5, I think we had.
Yeah.
It would only give you so much information and then almost tell you, hey, look at the screen for more. And it's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that fear? Is that a concern for you as these devices grow up?
Yeah, a little bit. Things getting more screen reliant. I mean, we know that we can be pretty certain that in Google's case, they'll have TalkBack, and in Lady A's case, they'll have Voice View. But I don't know about you. I had the Echo Show for the purposes of show and tell, which that's the only reason I had it. And that feature, I gave up on that a while ago. It was good when it came about and then just didn't seem to go anywhere. But Voice View would just shout things out randomly, I found.
Yes, time or weather all the time. Yeah, absolutely. You could customize that home screen. And look, it's cool that Voice View was in there. It was cool that you could move around. You could set it up out of the box and turn on a Voice View and set it up. Very nice. But the usability of it just wasn't great. And also the as Stephen said, the reliance of, well, I'm going to show it on screen, so, I'm not going to speak it out. The solution of just turn it into audio mode would have been fantastic. But
that's what they'll need to do, I think.
Yeah.
Or just have it as, if Voice View is turned on, then it automatically kind of assumes that it needs to do everything audio.
Speak all. Yes, exactly. And I'm not against these with screens, to be fair, because, a lot of us live in houses where, not everyone's visually impaired. So there may be some use to the screen for people want to glance to look at the weather or the status of smart home devices, lights and locks and whatever else, central heating. So there may be, in a family setting, there may be some use for a screen. I'm not against it. But I just think the way it's been implemented so far, at least in the Echo Shows, which is the only ones I've had any experience of, it just hasn't worked. And I've tried them a few times. I tried them when they first came out. I tried them when they show and tell, like you said, which was awful, by the way. And I've tried them since then, and just to see if they've been updated. And I just don't find them any use whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
No use whatsoever. Well, there we go.
You know what? When I say that, I should put that with a caveat. They work and they're accessible. I just
not great for blind people, right?
But the screen adds nothing.
Yeah,
the screen adds nothing, even though it's accessible.
But on the other hand, it opens it up to, people with hearing impairments, doesn't it? So,
That's right, yeah. So
That's true.
exactly. Thank you, Callum.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go, Sean.
Thanks, Callum.
What's
I've been
that thing you say?
shamed.
Owned. You've been owned.
Oh no, I've been ableisted, Dick.
Ableisted?
Oh, no, I'm
Excuse me?
so sorry.
I don't know if that was the right word you used, but we'll carry on regardless. It's interesting to me because I think with Apple come up with a HomePod with a screen, I mean, it's going to be accessible, right? So that, in a way, could be an option. Have you ever thought about going down the Siri route with the HomePods? Actually, you don't need to with a HomePod, do you? I mean, you've got the same with the iPhone itself. It could be your smart speaker. Why go down the route of Google at all?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the thing with Google and Lady A is that they actually work. So I mean, that's the.
Well, you said it, and
that's a little harsh.
And fairly so do I regularly say that as well. But
no, to be fair, the reason that I haven't gone down that route is because I found this is your mileage is going to vary with this one, but all the devices that I've got, my smart plugs and the Google doorbell and the Ring alarm and stuff, they have. You always find that they have Lady A and Google support, or in the alarms case, because it's Ring, that's just Lady A support. But basically, Siri seems to be the odd one out. Siri and HomeKit. I mean, the only things that I've got that are my Philips Hue lights. Now I've found a way to get my other things into Apple HomeKit, so I can use them with Siri on my phone or my watch if I want to. But I've got Homebridge running. So
on an Android device?
No. So the Homebridge runs on a. I'm getting really geeky now. Homebridge runs on a Raspberry Pi.
Oh,
and you can tie things into that.
You are getting nerdy.
So things that don't have native HomeKit support, such as the alarm, you can bring them in. But yeah, if we're talking just native stuff, I always had trouble finding things that were HomeKit compatible. I mean, that should have got better nowadays with Matter and things like that, but that's kind of the main reason why. I mean, everything else just works with Lady A and Google. But
I mean, I can hear Greg Hayes currently whacking his head
typing away
off a table now, because he's probably thinking, I've said all this before, and you're right. You're right, and he is right. Right, the things have improved with Matter and everything else. But I always go back to that consumer who is just dipping their toe into this. They're thinking, okay, I might want to get a smart speaker at home because, look, I know a lot of people have them, but a lot of people still don't. And they may be thinking, okay, what one do I buy? Now, it would appear obvious to me that Lady A is the one to go for. But if you're not in the tech bubble, you go into... I was in a big store here in the UK, Curry's, right, which is like a Best Buy equivalent.
Oh, yeah.
And, they had a huge display for Google Home. And I'm thinking, wow, all this ancient tech. And then they had the Lady A stand. And I'm thinking, okay, that's all getting updated next week. And then I thought, okay, so that's interesting. No, that's fine because I know this stuff, right? I follow this, but most people going in don't have a clue. And they'll be saying, okay, this sounds good. And they'll be pushed or directed by a family member or by a pushy salesperson towards a particular thing. Yeah, and price will ultimately decide. Absolutely. And when there's a sale on, of course, that's going to drive the sales, and Amazon are probably going to lead the charge on that one, which I think is why Amazon have kind of got there quicker. And a lot of people have got the association with Amazon anyway, right? And you get Prime and everything else. So there's lots of connection people make before they even walk in the store probably. But, when it comes to smart devices, that's a whole other ballgame. And, you almost feel like every single... And I do it as well. I pick up a smart device. I pick up... unless it's a brand like Philips Hue, where I've already got Philips Hue at home and I know that it will work. But even that... So I get a notification the other day saying, oh, you maybe want to upgrade your hub or whatever they call it, the Hue Bridge, because the new one's got Matter support. And then I looked into it and they said, oh no, your device should have Matter support. So I'm like, well, hang on, does it or doesn't it have Matter support? And how would I know? And it's like, these are the
Philips don't know.
Confusing.
Yes. The average Joe in the street is lost.
And it's been like this for years. This was for years we've been having the conversation. I remember being back on the days of doing Tech Talk. I remember the days of sitting there saying, I love all these smart tech devices, but I just don't understand which one I can buy, which will make sense and will work with what I have. And when it came to Apple and HomeKit in those early days, you could pretty much guarantee very few.
Get it.
That may have changed, though, and Matter will definitely be the bridge to that. But I don't think the messaging on this is very clear by manufacturers. I think you need to talk in language that we understand. Works with your Apple device, works with your Amazon device, works with your Google device. Talk in those terms, because I think if you say works with HomeKit, most people don't have a clue what that even means.
No, it's way too hard for non-techies to get into. And we need to move away from this whole thing of, I mean, one of the reasons I like the Google Home app is because it ties everything into one, which is just a really nice interface. Yeah. I've got 13 apps. I've got a folder called Home with all my smart home stuff, and I've got 13 apps in there because I'm the tech one. I've got, but you've got an app you've got the main like Google app, but then you've got an app for the Ring, an app for the Sonos, an app for the smart plugs, another app for the lights. And, it was doing, for my wife, it was doing her head in, because she was, when we started getting into all this, because I was like, yeah, it'd be really cool. You can control it remotely, and you can, do the lights before you come in. So it's all done, and you can do the heating when you're on your way home and stuff. All right. So yeah, the heating's in this app.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do the lights? Oh no, that's in that app. Oh, hang on. Which smart plug are you looking for? Oh no, that's in the other one.
Tapo, Casa, Smart Life. Yes.
So,
which one?
Yeah, exactly. It's a right mess.
It is. No, and
I
think
that's something we need to move away from.
Stephen makes a fantastic point there. I still get it now where someone says, I've bought, XYZ. Why can't I control it with the iPhone voice assistant? Well, because it doesn't support it. Well, how doesn't it support it? It's a smart device. The average guy on the street just doesn't know. And to be honest, it's still confusing now. There's some, is it Zigbee? Is it Z-Wave? Does it require a third-party hub to use? It's still, yes.
And people don't know what these terms mean. I don't even know what they mean.
No.
I thought Zigbee was, is he not in the Magic Roundabout? Kids TV show from my early days.
Showing your age.
You won't know that, Callum. I know that for sure. But I mean, honestly, that's the point, right? That, it shouldn't be so complicated. I mean, most people have probably got an idea of, if you're buying a keyboard for your computer, right? You go in, you would know that, it's going to connect to your computer via a specific type of cable, and that USB is going to connect to your computer. You'll have that, shaped slot in your computer to put it in, right? I mean, that's generally how most people probably do it, right? But there's no way of knowing with this stuff because there's no connector you can look at and say, oh yeah, that plug definitely fits this thing. It doesn't work like that because it's all over the air. And you're right. And it actually gets worse when you go onto Amazon, because if you buy, there's loads of products on there, tons and tons of, I was looking for a smart bulb the other night. And I just wanted a very simple, candle style screw-in bulb for a bedside lamp. It didn't need to be, incredibly, colorful or anything. It just had to be able to turn on and off and, stay alight when I had it turned on. That's all I really required of it.
Kind of.
You want a smart one?
I wanted a smart candle, yes. Smart candle light. Searched on Amazon, got about 8 million, options that came up and names I'd never heard of. And the issue I had with that was exactly what you're saying. That is going to require, these unknown ones are going to require a specific app. And they might connect to other things, but not guaranteed. I have lights I use for my studio color lights that make the studio look nice. And they will not connect to anything but one device via Bluetooth. And if I want to connect it to a computer, I've got to buy a dongle, a specific thing to connect this light. And this is ridiculous. It shouldn't be as complicated as this in 2025. I don't think. Must be a way of fixing this. But look, you're happy with Google and you're happy with Sonos. And, I don't know if I answered, I maybe touched on this. I wanted to come back to it. It was the whole Google and the Lady A thing. I mean, you do feel that Google gives you, in terms of responses, do you feel the responses from Google are better than what you're getting from Lady A? Or have you just ditched that entirely for I guess, questions about what the tallest building in the world is? You're off to ChatGPT for that.
Yeah, I've just kind of ditched it entirely. I mean, this isn't I'm not saying I prefer or oh, that's it, I've just ditched Lady A, I hate, I'll never use that again. I think they both have their place. It's just, primarily now I'm using the Google one, and it just works. It does everything that I need it to do. But yeah, I mean, 99% of the time, I'm just using it for smart home control, to be honest.
Yeah. Or accessible media player, which is cool. And so how you getting on with your Chromebook?
I did say I'm not fully in the ecosystem. I'm not switching to Android anytime soon. Sorry.
Oh,
well,
I didn't say that.
It's funny, right? Because I've been talking recently about setting up this iPhone 16 Pro Max that I've got here. And part of me was kind of toying with the idea of just setting up an Android phone. Because I wanted to set up a phone from scratch. And I thought, well, why don't I just set up an Android phone from scratch? Download all the apps I want, get started on it. And I thought that'd be really cool. But it was sending a message to Shaun, which stopped me in my tracks. Because I had something on my desktop, on my Mac, that I wanted to share with Shaun. It was a piece of text, right? So I was able to select the piece of text on the Mac, copy it, pick up my phone, and use the rotor to the edit field and just swipe down and hit paste, double tap on it.
Beautiful.
And there's the text.
Clipboard.
And there's no way to get away from this. It's like I cannot get away from this ecosystem. It's absolutely sucked me in. I'm stuck. And I love it. I actually think it's brilliant. It's amazing, but it would make it very difficult to move away. And I think ultimately a lot of people say that this is why, the DOJ in America go after companies like Apple and Google, because they lock you into their ecosystems. I mean, I still maintain it's a choice. No one's holding me by the gun.
Choice.
I mean, I can leave. But it's not as if the other option's terrible, is it? I mean, I could switch over entirely.
No, yeah. For all those people sending me links to Zoom meetings and whatever else on my iMessage, which I can't access through my Windows desktop, do it through WhatsApp. That's universal.
Well, that's what we did today.
Thank you. Yes, we did. Yes.
And it works.
It works because it's universal. Hence, therefore, vis-a-vis, apropos, it's better. Thank you.
Like, before we run out of time, what are you thinking about? Callum, tell me what you're thinking about the Amazon event that's coming up. Have you got any dreams here? Would you love to see a particular
dreams?
Any hopes, dreams?
What's your dreams?
Fears?
So we can smash
nightmares.
them.
Yeah.
What are my hopes and dreams in life?
Specifically around the Amazon event. We'll just keep it there.
Okay. Let's not go too deep.
No, we've only got about 5 minutes.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it would be interesting if we finally get some kind of... I mean, to be honest, the ChatGPT and Gemini and all that is all well and good. To be honest, I think the smart speakers, they need to get better at just letting you trip over your words or letting you speak in the way that you need to speak. When you're talking about just the general... We were talking earlier about the general non-techie user. I don't think, my nan's got an Amazon Echo and she uses it for timers, but it's hilarious because every time she puts something in the oven, she'll try to set a timer and then she'll go, she'll say the wake word and then she'll go, set a timer for, hang on, how long does it need to be on again? Of course, by the time she's done that,
yes,
yep,
this is going off and setting timers all over the place. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've set a 2-minute timer. She's like, no, I don't want 2 minutes. I want this. No, hang on. I'm like, no, you've got to say the wake word again. It's stop listening. So you need to cancel that timer. Then you need to just try and get it all in one go. Just say set a timer for 20 minutes.
Do you know something? That is such a wonderful example of real life and and how these things need to be smarter. My thing is always about, and we've talked about this recently, getting smart enough to have that ability to be conversational, but also be able to control my smart things. That's what I want it to do. I want it to kind of combine both. So like you were saying, Shaun, I think you said, I want it to be able to turn the light on and also set the heating to 16 or 18 degrees, or whatever it might be. You want it to do both at the same time, but you're absolutely right. It's those, I do it all the time. I'll say, turn on do not disturb mode. But then sometimes when I'm asking to turn off, I'll say, turn off, do not disturb. And then she says, oh, it's already enabled. No, I'll do it again. And you just go through this whole thing. And it's like, please just, if you're listening to me, listen to me. I feel like I'm having an argument with my wife. But it's if you'll just listen to me. Look, we're nearly out of time. Callum, tell people how they can listen to you on the air.
Yes. So RNIB Tech Talk is our podcast from the RNIB in the UK, obviously. So we're on, if you're in the UK, well, you can get it worldwide as well, but we're on RNIB Connect Radio is the radio station. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. is when we first go out, 1 p.m. UK time, that is. Or you can get us on podcast as well. Just put in RNIB Tech Talk on any podcast app and you should find us there.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on, Callum. Really appreciate your time. And definitely check out the Tech Talk show. Great conversations there. Callum, thanks for coming on. It's been great having you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Callum.
Pleasure.
And that's it for today. We are out of time, but Shaun, that was a good one. I enjoyed that. Talking about Google at home. Now you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. It makes total sense now. Well done, Stephen Scott.
Thank you. Yes, I am a hero. Listen, that's it for us. Don't forget you can feedback in all the usual ways. And don't forget to check out doubletaponair.com for all the very latest on what's going on here at Double Tap. Oh, yes, I've been busy. Yes, I've been busy for once. It'll last this way for another 6 weeks. Anyway, yes, we'll catch you again for another Double Tap soon. Take care. Thanks, Shaun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.